My name is Joe Maltese. Those of you that know me know where I come from. Those of you that don't, I will tell you I come from Jacksonville, Florida, the southern part of Jacksonville, the most southern part of Jacksonville. I can actually throw a ball from my house into the next county. That's how far south in Jacksonville. Excuse me?
Joe, do we need another table?
I was just going to say, let him go to the next class. This is enough. It's going to be too hot here. Yeah, okay. Thanks.
How many of the temperature?
I'm sorry. It's okay right now. If we have too many more people in here, it'll be very hot.
You have 72.
Yeah, we're set at 72. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. As I was saying, so I'm from Mandarin. We have no post, but we're building one right now. Any of you that want to see how that's going, see me at some point on the weekend, and I'll tell you about that. I taught this is my third year teaching this class. Before this one, I designed the protocol class that Jessica is teaching, so I would recommend you all go to that class as well. How many people here are in a leadership position in their chapter? We have any directors here? Leave your hands up. Assistant directors? Adjutants? Sergeant at Arms? Road captains? Okay, good. And chaplains? No chaplains? Okay. I'm the chaplain for my chapter. So I started my chapter about 6 years ago now. 7 years ago. And we've grown to a pretty respectable sized chapter. And we are one of 14 chapters in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is the biggest land area city in the United States except for Juneau, Alaska. So obviously there's a lot of posts now. We have 17 posts, 14 of them have chapters. I was the district chairman for the last 4 years, and then replaced by Zane. Let's see who that is. I'm knocking at the door there. Zane Kuntz, many of who you know as being the road captain for the Eastern Unity Ride. He will also be the road captain for the Eastern Unity Ride this year. Many people here rode on the Unity Ride. Where's that sign-in sheet? Good job. How many people have ridden on the Legacy Ride? Any of them? Whoops. Don't hit the table, Joe. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to try and figure out what leadership is all about. Those of you that are in leadership positions, hopefully this will give you some tools to make your job easier. And those of you that are considering leadership positions, this will help you move into your jobs, but it's not going to be the panacea that most people think it is. A lot of leadership you kind of learn as you go. So what we're going to try to do today is at least identify some of the tripwires that come with leadership, identify what leadership really is, and how to be a better leader. Okay? They're going to have to take the next class. Yeah, you're going to have to take the next class.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's 4 or 5 of these, so just sign up for the next one. Thank you.
Okay, I'm only here today.
Well, there's one this afternoon. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do today is have some exercises, hopefully, that you'll be able to figure out what a good leader is, what a bad leader is, and so on and so forth. And then we'll answer whatever questions you have. And we're not going to save the questions till the end, even though the last slide says questions. If you have a question in the middle, bring it up. Try not to get into personalities. At my post, we do so on and so forth, and this guy is horrible, and this girl, we don't have any time for that. But if you have a legitimate concern that you don't think that you have a way of getting through without some tools, bring it up, and it'll help everybody. Okay? Any questions? All right. So, find leadership and its importance, discover the qualities of a great leader, prepare participants for ALR leadership, and finally, towards the end of the course, we're going to explore the ALR leadership from Jim on down, so how the department is divided up as far as the leadership goes. What is leadership? Okay, so these are not all my definitions, okay? I did change some of these from last year, but these are definitions from other people. Okay, leadership refers to an action by an individual or team of individuals, the action of directing a group of people or an organization towards clearly defined goal or result. And we're going to talk about the goals as we go through today. And leadership is a process whereby an individual or team influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. Managers need to plan, measure, monitor, coordinate, solve. How many people here thinks managers are leaders? Well, we got one at least. Anybody else? They can be, but they don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily come, right? A leader could be somebody other than a manager, and a manager can be somebody other than a leader. Okay, this is what other people say about leadership. Which one of these do you like the best? Harry Truman, a leader is a person who has the ability to get people to do what they want to do and like it. Like that one? Leadership is the accomplishment of goals through the direction of human assistance. Well, that sounds like Harvard, right? Leadership is like moving a string across a table. You pull, you don't push. Ike. How many people like that definition of leadership? That's one of my favorites. Leadership is the process of social influence which maximizes the efforts of others toward the achievement of a goal. Sweetheart, if you want, there's a class this afternoon, and there's 2 classes tomorrow, and there's another one on Saturday if you feel like you're too stuffed in here. Okay? Thanks. Okay. Leadership is the process of influence, social influence, which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. Okay, I'll go with that one. Leaders will be those who empower others. Bill Gates. Anybody like that one?
Yeah.
All right. A leader is someone with followers. That's my favorite one out of all of them. You can't be a leader if nobody follows you. Right? And then, of course, influence, inspire, and help others become their best selves, building their skills and achieving goals along the way. Tony Robbins. I mean, come on, really? All right, so that's what everybody thinks leadership is about. Why is it important? We don't know where we're going, but we're making good time, right? Yogi Berra. You have to have a leader so you know where you're going. That's really what it's all about. So leadership is necessary to establish the ultimate goal or desired result, keeps the organization or team focused on the goal, assures that all actions are related to the goal, imparts a vision. In other words, what is the goal going to be? So you, as a leader, you may have a goal, but the goal doesn't really mean anything unless you can paint a picture in your followers' minds of what things are going to be like when that goal is accomplished. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So a goal is a great thing to have, but why do you have the goal? What's going to be accomplished? What's going to change? How are things going to look when this goal is over? Right? And that's really that's the vision. And the leader keeps the vision top of mind within the organization or team. So basically, number one, you have to provide that vision, right? And then what you have to do is all throughout the process, whether it's a small process or a multi-month or multi-year process, you have to constantly keep that vision in front of those people, right? You got to keep saying, look, when we're done, it's going to be great. When we're done, this is what's going to happen. You have to constantly, so part of being a leader is what? Cheerleader, right? You got to kind of be a cheerleader. Now, some people do that in a very low key. Some people are jumping out of their skin, and some people are in the middle, okay? It doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you, that's what you do. But you have to constantly, you have to keep the vision top of mind so that you can keep it top of mind for your followers, okay? Establish the ultimate goal or desired result is really the first thing you have to do, right? There's no sense in doing anything unless you know what you're going to do at the end, right? So that's called begin with the end in mind, right? Begin with the end in mind. And then you got to stay focused on the goal. So this is the number 3 thing here. Leadership assures that all actions are related to the goal and are moving the group forward towards the goal. Okay, so let's talk about the American Legion. If somebody doesn't do what you want, what do you do with them?
Make them do it.
How do you make them do it?
Inspire them.
Encourage them.
Okay?
Hold the hand and show
All right,
them.
now let's say you're at your job and one of your subordinates needs to get something done. How do you make them do it?
Well, that's totally different.
Why?
Well,
Because you're right.
A job is a job in the American Legion. It's an all-volunteer organization. So you've got to get them to do what you want, but there's several ways of doing that. first you ask. You don't tell people, you ask them. But you can't sit back and wait for someone to volunteer either. So you need to ask them. You need to be man or woman enough to stand up and say, hey, I need some help. Can you help me? And if you can make them think they're doing you a favor, they're helping you, it's easier for them to do it. It's harder for them to say no.
I like that. Okay? So remember this. And I want everybody to really take this to heart. And I don't really care who your religion is or whatever, okay? But this is the hierarchy in people's lives in a volunteer organization. Number one is God or whoever it is they hold in high esteem, right? Number two is their family. Number three is their job that they do to make a living so they can support their family, right? And then the Legion comes in somewhere around number 4. Okay? So when somebody has to do 16, 18 hours of work for the Legion on the weekend, you got to remember that those other 3 things are being replaced for a little while. And sometimes that's okay, as long as you don't expect it all the time, right? So, what this gentleman says here, I like it. You need to ask them to do things for you. You can't say, if you don't do it, I'm not going to give you a raise. If you don't do it, you're not going to get the promotion. If you don't do it, you're fired. Okay? We don't have any of that power. So being a true leader, those are 3 tools that you don't have, but if you know how to lead people, those are 3 tools you don't need. Right? Now in the military, if you don't do what they say, what do? They can shoot you, right? Take that hill. No, sir. Boom. Done. Next one. Okay? Right? Am I right? Okay? Even though this is a paramilitary organization, we don't have, I mean, most of us do, but I mean, we don't pull them out and shoot people with them, right? We don't do that, okay? So you have to have a nice method and a standard operating procedure in order to get people to get things done, okay? So, leadership assures that all actions are related to the goal. So what we see in volunteer organizations, remember the hierarchy, right? You're taking some hours away from those other 3 priorities, right? So if you're going to use human capital, that's what we're doing, right? You want to make sure whatever you're using it for is directly related to the goal you're trying to accomplish. You have to constantly look at how your project is going, how your post is doing, and constantly evaluate. Am I wasting human capital having these people do X, Y, Z? Is it really making us get towards our goal, whatever that may be? If the answer is no, stop. Abandon what they're doing and redeploy those assets someplace else, where they're going to be directly related to the goal. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah. Okay. That's one of the biggest challenges of being a leader, is to constantly be evaluating what the people are doing. Is it really getting you to your goal? Because if it's not, you're wasting human capital and you're taking them away from those other 3 priorities. You can do that, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, and then you're going to say, well, gee whiz, I can't get any volunteers. Maybe that's why. The other thing is, they have to feel like they are essential to getting the goal done. They don't want to be doing some non-important job. So every job towards that goal has got to be, in other words, if we didn't have that job, would the goal still be accomplished? If the answer is no, then that's an essential job. If the answer is yes, then get rid of that job, right? If it's not essential to getting to the goal, don't make them do it. Okay. What did I do here? There we go. Wrong button. Okay. So what do leaders have to be? You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to get that vision that's in your head into everybody else's head. All right? So if I said to you, the sky is blue. You have a picture in your brain, right? How blue is the sky in your brain? Is it a pale blue? Is it blue with a little bit of clouds? Is it crystal clear blue? Is it very dark blue at night to where the stars are in, right? Everybody has a different way of hearing what you say, because why? Their interpretation is clouded by their personal experiences. So just because I've communicated to her and she knows what I mean, if I communicate to this lady who I've been married to for 47 years, I can say like one or two words and she knows everything I'm talking about, right? You know, I can actually just look at her and she knows what I'm talking about, okay? But if I did the same thing to this gentleman here, who I've only known for a year, right? He might not take it the same way. So you have to think about that. Now, when I'm talking about communicating, I'm not just talking about verbal communications, right? We communicate verbally. We communicate with body language, right? We communicate via text, via email, right? Before I learned how to type, everything was in capital letters. I just clicked the thing and it typed it. Well, somebody told me that that means I'm yelling at people, okay? You need to be cognizant of that, okay? Certain people have cultural differences where if you do a certain thing to them. For example, did you ever notice when you're on an airplane, how do these stewardesses, we couldn't call them that anymore, flight attendants, how do they identify the exits? Anybody remember? Okay. Wait a minute. Do it again? Nope. You do it. Okay. Put your hands up high so everybody can see. You see what she's got? Okay. You know why? Because in some cultures, this is an insult. Okay? So it's very important how you communicate. It's very important. Communication is how you get the vision that's in your head into their head, but you always have to be cognizant of how your message is coming across to your audience, whether it's a group or just one person. Okay? Just like that lady I told to take the next class. Okay? She was upset about it, and I had to reevaluate quickly in my head, did I say it the right way or did I piss her off? She might have been pissed off anyway, but hopefully I didn't do it, right? So you have to always constantly evaluate your audience. Okay. The next thing about a leader is you have to be a student of your organization. So what does that mean to us? Constant learning. Know what you're doing. And how do we know what we're doing? Read what?
Bylaws, constitutions, manuals.
Very good. Everything that you need to know about the American Legion, believe it or not, is on mylegion.org. Under the resources section. And on the department website, all of these classes in convention, in the fall conference, in the summit, are all in there. So you have multiple places to look things up. Now this is what we do in the Legion. Oh yeah, well, you know, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, Congress says you can salute while you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. The auxiliary and sons, you don't have to answer this, but all the legionnaires, what do you have to do? What position are you in when you salute? Attention. Attention. Can somebody tell me the position of attention? What are the rules?
No speaking.
You can't talk. Okay, so how can you say the Pledge of Allegiance like this? What Congress did was they said, if you're a veteran, in or out of uniform, instead of putting your hand over your heart, you can salute when the Star-Spangled Banner is playing. They didn't say you could say the Pledge of Allegiance like this. And if you're saluting when the Star-Spangled Banner is playing, guess what? You're not singing. Okay? So these are the things that you have to think about when you're learning the rules. Because there's always going to be somebody that says, oh yeah, well that's what you have to do because we've always done it that way. Well, maybe, but that's not what the real story is, right? So you should constantly be looking out and reviewing all of the information that's on the site that tells you about how the Legion works, what we do, and so on and so forth. And still, then if you have a question, you need to go to someone that's authoritative. And I would suggest that all of you check with your judge advocate first. Everybody know what a judge advocate does? Anybody that doesn't? The judge advocate is the person that's supposed to know all the rules and has the ability to interpret those rules. Now, unfortunately, some posts, you know, the commander likes this guy, so yeah, we don't have no other position for you, so you're the judge advocate. Hopefully, that guy rises to the occasion and becomes what he needs to become. But it should be someone that knows the Legion and all the organizations in the Legion inside and out. Okay? I'm the commander of my post. But I know as much about the auxiliary as most auxiliary members do. Why? Because they're in my post. I need to know what they're doing, right? I need to know whether they're doing things properly or improperly. I need to know whether I can discipline them or not. Can I?
Yep.
No.
No. What can I do? Say what? I can tell them, so the auxiliary is allowed in the post. The auxiliary is allowed in the post at the pleasure of the Legion. So you can't really bar them from the Legion.
You better
But
be
you can
right.
tell them they're not welcome in your post anymore. That you're allowed to do. If they have a discipline problem and you want to get it fixed without taking some kind of extreme measure like that, because that's really your only option, you should go to your auxiliary unit president and say, hey, look, we have a problem with this person. Can you get it under control? And that should take care of it, okay? But you, as the Legion, have no authority over the auxiliary. They're a completely separate operation than we are, and they're at our post at the pleasure of the Legion. Guess what? If we didn't have the auxiliary at the post, what would happen to our membership? Probably go in half, right? Because number one, the auxiliary is a big part of the riders. But number two, how many Legionnaires are going to be able to come to the post if their husband or wife is not welcome there, right?
Yep.
So that's an important thing. You have to have the skill and patience to identify excellent managers. So remember we talked about a leader and a manager. Is a leader a manager? Is a manager a leader? Maybe yes, maybe no. But let's look at it this way. You have a leader that has to kind of take the 30,000-foot picture of what's going on in your chapter, right? You can't be involved in the little minutia, like what gas stop are we going to do on this next ride? That's not something that you have the mental capacity to handle when you're looking at the 30,000-foot picture. So you need to pick a manager, which was normally going to be your what? The road captain, and trust that they know what they're doing, right? You need to, hey, look, that guy's a great manager. He can manage rides. He can make sure people's motorcycles are safe. He can keep everybody in line. That is a good manager. Let's see if that guy will be a road captain. And then, when he's a road captain, let him be the road captain, not you, okay? All right. Humility, okay, is a big quality, and basically this means that you understand that your managers, who are specialized in their particular field of expertise, 9 times out of 10 are going to know more about that field than you are. And that's good. That's okay. Because you can't know everything. Nobody can. Right? So you have to be able to be humble enough to realize that they're specialists. Let them do their job. That's a huge, huge leadership quality, and one of the biggest ones that would-be leaders fall down on. A lot of leaders get too involved and get lost in the weeds, and they become ineffective leaders and piss everybody off too. Okay? You got to be enthusiastic about the goal. Remember what I said before? You got to be a cheerleader, right? Okay? And then you have to exemplify what you want the members to look like. So if you come into the post, falling down drunk every other day, get on your motorcycle on one side, fall off the other side, ride drunk, whatever, cut in front of everybody and so on, guess what? Your members are still going to think that's what it's all about. If that doesn't sound like the kind of chapter you want, then you need to change and be what you want everybody else to be. Does that make sense? Okay. Great leaders. Wars may be fought with weapons, but they're won by men. It is the spirit of men who follow and of the man who leads that gains the victory. So Patton had a lot of people that said he couldn't do the things he did. Lots of them. And he didn't care. He had the vision. He kept the vision. And he kept the vision in the minds of his managers. And he trusted his managers to do what they needed to do. And that's why he was such a great general. Okay? Great leaders. This is one of my favorite leaders. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Right? President Reagan, thought by many to have been a charismatic leader. Charismatic leaders manage follower impressions by constantly demonstrating courage and conviction. So this is the part where you don't let your people give up. Right? When somebody, okay, I'll give you something that I say to everybody that comes into my post, whether it's the sons, riders, so that's how I get to talk to the auxiliary, I say this to every single new person. Give me your word. You will never do anything to harm this post or anyone in it. I tell that to every single person that comes in, every new person. And if they give me that word, I don't care what anybody else anywhere says about that person, I know that they gave me their word that they were never going to harm anybody in my post or any of the people in it. Okay? You can do that kind of thing, right? Charismatic leaders manage impressions by constantly demonstrating courage and conviction. You also want to make sure that when somebody gives you a conviction like that or gives you a promise like that, that they stick with it. When you're doing a goal, sometimes goals take 3 months, sometimes they take 3 years, sometimes they take 30 years. You've got to make sure that the people don't quit. They don't give up. How do you do that? Well, number one, you can't quit or give up, right? How else?
Keep the vision there.
Keep the vision in front of them. Anything else?
Encouragement.
All right, that's a great word. So tell me what encouragement means to you.
To make someone feel good, to exemplify their qualities, tell them, make them feel better.
Okay, so maybe let me say that in a different way.
Yes.
I know what you mean. Okay, so let me say it so we all are on the same page. Basically, you want to make sure that that person feels like what they've done is the right thing, that what they've done is important towards achieving the goal. You want to recognize that person, right, with some sort of appreciation. Could be as easy as, man, thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate it. By the way, if you can do that in front of other people while you're doing that, that makes it even more powerful. In some cases, you want to give them a certificate. Thank you for going above and beyond, okay? Those are all available on the Legion website. If you haven't downloaded the, what do you call that stuff?
Billy Award?
No. Yeah, that's one of the things, but that's not what I'm saying. If you haven't, it's called clip art. They have a whole clip art thing. It's a thumb drive. You can buy it. I think it's like $10.
$6.
You should have one of those.
It was $6 when I got
$6. Okay. If you have one of those, you can make all you have to do is buy some nice paper. You can make any kind of certificate you want with the Legion emblems on it, with the Riders emblems on it, with the auxiliary emblems on it, with the Sons emblems on it. It all comes on that little thumb drive, okay? As long as you're a member of the Legion, you have the right to use that stuff in Legion business. Now, don't put it on your, Jimmy's Yard Service and then have a Legion emblem on there. That's illegal, okay? But if it's Legion business, you can use that if you have that thing download it. That's a real handy tool, and it doesn't cost a whole lot to give somebody a little extra love, a little extra appreciation. Yes, sir? MyLegion.org. MyLegion.org. You guys got to just plant that in your head. MyLegion.org. Go under the resources section, and there, everything you need to start a chapter, run a chapter, close down a chapter, whatever you want to do, it's all in there. Everything you need. The bylaws, sample bylaws. Last year they adopted the American Legion Riders as a national program, the American Legion, finally. Okay, and the department adopted them as well. So all of that stuff is in there. Okay. Reagan was well known for demonstrating courage and conviction, uses personal strength and conviction to impress his values and followers and persuade them that his vision was the best for the nation. He says, surround yourself with the best people you can find and then delegate authority. Okay, what does that mean? You don't deal with the weeds. You got to stay at that 30,000-foot vision. And then, don't interfere as long as the policy you've decided upon is being carried out. So many times, you give somebody a job, and you have an idea of how the job should progress in your mind, don't you? Right? And then you see them doing the job, and it's not anywhere near how you would do it. But, if you step back, and you say, well, when they're done, it's going to look like what I want it to look like. Then leave them alone. There's more than one right way to do things. I know the old my way is or the highway. We don't do that, okay? Look at the thing. Now, if they're going off course, yes, you need to step in and give them a gentle nudge back on course. But if they're just doing it differently and still going to end up with the same goal at the end, leave them alone. Let them do it their way. It empowers them, number one. Number two, it helps them become a better manager. And number three, it helps them become someone that could eventually move up, right? And that's what we're looking for constantly, because the American Legion cannot exist without a steady flow of leaders coming up through the ranks, okay? I was the writers director for 3 years. They wanted me to run for another year. I said no. After 3 years, you have what? A dynasty. And what happens when you have a dynasty? You have cliques. And what happens when you have cliques? You have some people that are in the clique, and you have some people that are out of the clique. And the people that are out of the clique, how happy do you think they are? Not very. And that's what happens to your whole thing. It starts going down the drain. Okay? Oh, I did it again. Okay. Forgetting about your religious feelings, okay? Putting religious and spiritual beliefs aside, no one in history has been discussed more or worshipped more, had more songs and books written about and inspired more work, created one of the world's most sustained organizations, the church. Jesus Christ was certainly a leader from whom lessons can be learned and applied in today's world. He did follow me. Asked people, just like this gentleman said to begin with. Ask people. And he was the best one at asking people, because pretty soon he got half the world to follow him, right? Okay. Jesus held strong convictions and values, showing tremendous compassion to others, who didn't share the same convictions. Likewise, today's great leaders are clear about their values and expectations while being sensitive to the person behind the employee. This balance engages people's hearts and minds, and it motivates them to give their discretionary effort. So that whole Jesus Christ thing came out of Inc. magazine. You think corporations are paying attention to that? You bet they are. And we should be too. Okay. An individual in a leadership position may or may not be a leader. So what happens in your chapter? Somebody give me a chapter that's had a director for more than 2 years. Anybody here? The chapter's director is only 1 year person?
57.
How many years?
8.
8 years been the chapter director. Is it Bill Hutchins?
No.
Oh, okay.
We had
Rick
one for
Cabrera.
14 years.
Who?
Rick Cabrera.
He's also your commander, isn't he? He's the commander and the chapter director?
Well, maybe not. No, maybe not.
Yeah, okay. I think he's just the commander.
Yeah.
I know he was a director at
Yes.
one point years ago, but I think he's just a commander now. Okay, but still, if you have somebody that's been a director for a long time, it usually means one or two things. Number one, it's going too far and we have a clique that's going to keep that person in power. Or number two, and the most likely scenario is, nobody else was groomed to step up. Okay, so here's a big problem that you have as a leader in a volunteer organization. You're the leader, you're doing a great job, and you make sure everybody knows how taxing it is on you, how much work you have to do, how much time you have to give up, how hard it is, how your wife hates you because you're never there, how your husband hates you because you're never there, okay? If you do that, who the hell in their right mind wants to replace you?
You're discouraging everybody.
Nobody, right? You should never do that as a leader. You should lead quietly, and if you have things that you suffer through, quietly. Nobody should know that. Because when the next leader comes along and he sees all the stuff you're telling him, why are he or she going to want to take that spot? Right? So that's one of the biggest things. Further, if they're a good leader, they may not be a great leader. Okay? So the leaders that are in a leadership position might have just gotten there because nobody else would step up. Now there's a little double-edged sword there, right? Nobody else would step up. Now if you have a really, really poor leader and a person that just has no self-confidence and can't say no, this next thing that I'm going to say doesn't apply. Okay? But most people are not that person. Most people are just not great leaders yet. But the fact that they did step up because nobody else would is a selfless act. Okay? And that's one of the qualities of a leader. And I submit to you that with the help of the organization, that person can become a great leader. Okay? So give them a chance. Again, though, that's not the ideal way to get a leader. What I'd love to see in every single chapter is when elections come around, 6 people are running for director. How many people are on the slate for your director for this year? One? Only one?
We haven't done it yet.
Well, your elections are coming March and we start doing nominations. But do you guys have a feeling that there's going to be more than one? One, right?
We're in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're both gunning for the same job.
So we have two people running for director.
Yeah.
Good job. I'd like to see it. Perfect. Very good. Be nice to even have 3 or even 4. Okay? Give the people a choice. Show that the position is such a great position that people actually want it. Show that the people actually love the organization enough to want to put forth their vision and make the organization grow in a way that they think it can. Okay? That's what you really want. The fact that there's only one person running for director, and my post is the same way, is horrible. It's horrible. And that's because maybe the current director has worn their lives on their sleeve, so to speak, and how hard it is, discourage everybody else, or nobody really has a love and a vision for the organization to want to put their 2 cents in and help it grow, make it theirs. Okay? Let's look at the leaders and see if they're good or bad. Yes?
So, my problem with what you just said, having more than one person run for director,
Right?
is that a little bit earlier, we said that we're grooming people to move up, okay? So, if you have an assistant director that you're grooming, okay, you would think that that person's gonna move up for director,
Correct.
okay?
Maybe.
But if we have other people who want to be director, that haven't done anything to be director, but they're gonna win because their friends want them there.
Well, okay, so you have to set, first of all, we want to make sure we have secret ballots, right? So the friendship thing should not be a huge issue. The bottom line is, if somebody has a great following in a group, that should start telling you something about them to begin with, okay? Now, it's not always the most popular person is the best leader. I agree with you there. But if you have one guy that nobody is friends with, it's probably going to be really tough for that person to be an effective leader. Okay? Probably. We're going to talk about that a little later, how you can't be friends with everybody once you are a leader. But in the process of getting there, you should have some sort of following or people that think you can do a good job. And that may not be the person that's the assistant director. Okay? Maybe the next person down, the person below the assistant director, the next officer. Okay? That's why in the department we have second vice, first vice. Theoretically, they'll move up one by one, but they don't have to. I talked to Jessica this morning. Chris Hamrick is running for commander next year. She could run for commander as well. She's not the first vice, she's the second vice. But they could both run for commander. And let the membership pick the one that they think is the best one to lead. Okay, that's always a possibility. I know she won't do that because she likes Chris a lot and she feels like he'll do a good job. But I mean, she could. There's nothing to stop her. Does that kind of answer that for you?
I
Yes.
just think it's a shame that you sit there and you groom somebody and then at last minute.
Well, and the other thing is, it's possible that person who was being groomed, if really they've done a good job and shown the organization that the grooming is working, then we hope that the organization, if everybody loves the organization, we're hoping that they'll pick the person that's best suited for the job. Yes?
So in our scenario, right, me and Ed both running for director, I'm currently the assistant director. If I happen to win the election, I would go up to director. I was sure you can't nominate yourself for multiple positions. Like you can't run for assistant and director at the same time.
That's correct. You cannot hold 2 positions at the same time either.
But can you be
Okay? But somebody can nominate you for the position. Whoever has the most votes in the nomination process will be the nominee. It's just like Trump and Nikki Haley, right? They're both running for the same position. Neither one of them is being voted on as far as getting the position. They're just being nominated for who is going to be voted on, right? So you can be nominated for more than one position. You cannot hold more than one elected position. Okay? So like, what's an elected position?
All the board.
Sergeant.
Who?
The board. Like your director, assistant director, treasurer, sergeant at arms, adjutant, all of.
Okay, so the adjutant is not. The adjutant is not an elected position, nor is the judge advocate. Finance officer most certainly is an elected position. The adjutant is usually appointed by the director and then approved by the board. Okay? Same thing with the judge advocate. Okay, you probably don't have a judge advocate in your riders. You could if it's a big enough riders, but usually you use the post-judge advocate. Okay? But yeah, so there are some positions that are appointed. So you can have an appointed position, like membership chair, and an elected position, like finance officer. You can hold both of those. You just can't hold two elected positions. So you can't be first vice and finance officer. Not allowed to do that. Okay? And that makes sense, right? You don't want somebody that, you know, is running the whole thing. That's when we end up with posts that have problems because money's not being tracked properly and so on.
So let's say you got one person that's been nominated for two positions.
Right?
And they actually win the nominations for those two positions.
Okay?
So they gotta pick which one they wanna be, right?
As long as nobody's running against them. If people are running against them, you still go through the election. Whoever wins, wins.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, but let's say they win both those positions.
So he holds two positions right now.
Yeah.
He holds our assistant.
So if you win both those positions, at that point.
You can't hold them
You
both.
take one, you gotta make a decision on which one you want, right?
Right.
And then the next person that had the
Right.
most votes.
Correct.
Would move up.
Would move up, correct. That's exactly right. You can't hold two elected positions. You can't do that in the Riders, the Legion, the Auxiliary, or the Times. All of them prohibit that. So, yeah, if it's an elected position, you can't hold two of them. You can have an appointed position and an elected position. So like you can be elected to the board and then also appointed judge advocate by the commander or the director. That's okay. Okay, is everybody clear on that?
So if you're nominated for two, you have to pick one to run for?
Well, first of all, when you're nominated for a position, what is that? What has to happen immediately after you're nominated for a position? You have to accept the nomination, okay? So when you are nominated for two positions, you accept one and you decline the other.
Okay.
Right? That's pretty easy peasy, right? So that's not a big thing. You can't nominate for somebody in absentia, right? Oh, he didn't come to the meeting. Guess what? You just got nominated and voted in as director. That doesn't, okay? Not allowed to do that. Okay? A person has to accept it, and if they're not at the meeting when they get nominated, they have to accept it in writing. Okay? So everybody knows they accept it. Okay? All right, so let's look at some leaders here. Everybody good with that so far? We good?
I got a
Yes, sir.
question. I'm gonna ask you for your assumption.
Okay?
Our entire E-board this year ran unopposed.
Okay? That happens a lot.
Everybody. Would you assume we've got a problem?
How big is your post?
347?
347, the biggest post in the world? Yeah, you guys have a definite problem. If everybody ran unopposed, that means nobody's stepping up in the biggest post in the world. Yeah, that's a big problem.
You're talking about riders, we have 134 riders at membership.
Okay.
Riders.
And those all ran unopposed as well.
That's exactly right, I'm with the same post.
Yeah, you need,
Same.
yeah.
The
there's-
only person that carried over was the sergeant at arms. Everybody, and he was unopposed but
Yeah.
everybody.
Everybody ran unopposed, but they all incumbents.
Everybody raised hands, I'll give it a shot.
Okay, so all the people you're saying, everybody that ran unopposed, were they all incumbents or not? Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
No, they were, these were gentlemen that were with other posts in other part of the country. They had a lot of experience in their posts, starting posts, trading posts.
Right.
So they had a lot of knowledge.
But they weren't the same director that's been, the same board member that's been in there for the last 8 years?
No.
Okay, that's okay. That's not a big problem. I don't think
Well,
so.
I think it is, because nobody actually raised their hand and said, I want to run for this office.
So how did they run? Were they voluntold?
They were unopposed.
Oh, so somebody nominated them and they accepted the
Oh, yeah,
nomination?
they were nominated and.
Yeah, I mean, with a post as big as yours, I would expect to see some competition, but as long as it's not the same person year after year after year, you're probably still okay. All right? Probably still okay. It just means that the jobs are so big, nobody wants to step up, and whoever's got the job is making it look even bigger than it probably really is.
Or was.
Okay?
Yeah,
Or was.
Or was. Okay.
exactly.
All right, let's look at Cheryl. Cheryl works at Amazon. She's in a warehouse with over 400 employees. She's got a lot of experience, been with Amazon since 1995, a year after the company started. She works hard to make sure all the inventory is accounted for, all the warehouse equipment is in working order, and all the shipments go out on time. She schedules all the shifts, assures that each shift is adequately staffed. She likes to have a friendly work environment, and she submits timely reports to corporate headquarters. What kind of a leader is Cheryl?
It doesn't dictate part that doesn't delegate.
She's efficient, but is she a leader really? Or a manager? She's a manager. Okay, so here's a clue in here, okay? There's a couple of clues. Inventory, that's not a people thing, okay? It has nothing to do with a goal. She manages the inventory. Managers manage things, right? Not ideas. I mean, sometimes ideas. Obviously, they have to have some creativity to get their job done correctly. But they aren't the people that come up with the vision or make people work towards the vision. They manage things. So she's managing inventory, warehouse equipment, right? Schedules. She likes to have a friendly environment. Okay, this is kind of a leadership thing, right? Or it could just be that's what she likes. It doesn't necessarily mean she has it. Yes, sir.
A phrase that always stuck in my mind is that managers manage resources, leaders lead people.
Right.
And
You're going to see that in the next slide.
Yeah. and to me, I mean, that's all management. There's no leadership at all,
Right.
really.
Now, is she a good manager?
Yes.
She's an excellent manager, right? She's an excellent manager, okay? All right, let's look at the platoon. First Lieutenant Connor Johnson, United States Army's in command of the Raptor Platoon. Sorry, when I made these up, I was looking at 4 charts. No.
Just watching Rambo.
Raptor Platoon soldiers are Army Combat Engineers, MOS 12D, for those of you that knew that. In the past, few commanders in the training for the new platoon members has become fragmented. It has been made it difficult to know which soldiers possess which skills when tackling an assignment. Lieutenant Johnson's goal for the platoon is to unify and standardize the training for all soldiers. He sees a bright future for Raptors where all soldiers are well trained and can accomplish anything they are tasked with. Sees is what? Vision. The goal and the vision, okay? So this is kind of giving you a clue right here. This is not a manager necessarily, but a leader. Okay. He understands that his NCOs know what training is lacking, and he has Sergeant Lund and Sergeant First Class Elliott draw up the training curriculum. Okay? What are these guys?
Managers.
Delegated to what kind of people? Management, right? Lieutenant Johnson has Sergeant First Class Elliott track the training of each soldier and document and keep records of the skills they've mastered. He instructs Sergeant First Class Elliott to give him regular reports of the soldier's progress. Lieutenant Johnson keeps the soldiers in the platoon focused on having the best trained, most highly skilled combat engineers in the Army. What is that? Keeping them focused on the vision, right? Lieutenant Johnson has Sergeant Monk identify and work with those soldiers requiring remedial training to bring them to a level expected. What kind of a leader is Lieutenant Johnson? He is definitely a leader that delegates to his managers, okay? All right. American Legion. Leaders in the American Legion. Right now we have the department commander everybody knows as Gambler.
Gambler.
And of course we know that our beloved ALR chair, Jim Wyman, right? Who is also assisted very heavily by our adjutant, Ms. Beverly Wu. Okay? All right. Post commander. He establishes goals, direction, and culture. So he's a goals, direction, culture. He's a leader, right? Creates a vision, keeps everybody focused, provides inspiration. That's key, right? He's got to inspire his people because he can't say, if you don't do this, you're not getting a raise. If you don't do this, you're going to get fired. If you don't do this, you're not getting the promotion, right? He can't do any of that. So he's got to inspire his people to want to get on board with the vision. He supervises and leads the officers, okay? So he leads the officers. The officers are his managers, right? He might appoint committees of officers. He controls the agenda and conducts meetings. Now this is really important. How many people go to a meeting that lasts more than an hour? On average. Your Rogers meetings last more than an hour. Anybody?
Give or take 10 minutes.
Okay, well, yeah.
It's good average.
So sometimes it runs over a little bit, but you should be able to get everything done in an hour. And if you're not, it's most likely because there's not a fixed agenda that the entire group is acquainted with, right? Some people actually send the agendas out ahead of time to the membership so that everybody knows what's going to be talked about during the meeting. At the very least, the agenda should go out to the officers, okay? And you should stick to the agenda. So you don't have somebody bringing up something that's for the good of the chapter in the middle of old business. or somebody that's bringing up finances on a new business, okay? Everything should be in order. And when it is in order, you should have a meeting with the officer or the board prior to the meeting, even if it's a Zoom meeting or telephone meeting or just sitting in the bar. Why? Because how many people have sat through a finance report that went on for pages and pages in 10 minutes? Anybody? Yeah, okay. That is for the board. That's not for the membership. You should not put the membership through that. So what you do is you go through it in the board and go, okay, yeah, that's important, that's important. Okay, we need the membership's approval on this, we need the membership. The little minutia that the board needs to know about is not necessarily something that you have to share with the membership, okay? It's not because you're not providing transparency, don't get me wrong, we're not hiding anything, right? But what we're trying to do is, as leaders, boil down the essential information to disseminate among the members, yes? Make sense? And that's how you keep your meetings on track and how you keep the time going and you don't end up with a 2-hour meeting or most of the meeting being taken up by 1 or 2 people and nobody else gets a chance to contribute, right? Make sense? Okay, so it controls the agenda and conducts the meeting. So once you have the agenda, somebody brings something up that's outside of the agenda, what do? Oh, you can't talk about that there. Here, we're in new business now. Yes, we're going to get to that when we get to whatever the subject belongs to, right? And then just move on. Don't even, you got to be able to do that. That's one of the things you have to do as a leader. Move on. In a nice way, but move on, right? You got to keep the thing moving. How do you inspire? Well, first of all, you want people to be proud of your post, right? I'm proud of my post. I'm proud of everybody in it. They've done a great job, right? I'm proud of my district. 5th district, I mean, what a great district to be in, okay? You have to be proud of it, and you have to push that pride out to the members, right? Create optimism for the goals. It's not like, oh, gee whiz, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get it done. It's going to be great, and this is what's going to happen once we get the goal done, right? Got to keep optimistic. Establish a comfortable, respectful, and inclusive environment. Again, cliques. If you see one developing as a leader, it's your job to bring the people's attention to the fact that they're forming a clique and explain to them why that's bad for the organization. And have them invite more people in. Because the one thing about cliques is, it's great. Everybody in the clique is friends, they all know each other. But what happens is, they don't become, a brand new person comes in and they can't get in. So the clique needs to constantly be bringing people in. That's it. If you have a clique, make it their job to be the most welcoming group in the whole place, right? And of course, you want to be respectful always, right? You don't want to be the person that's putting people down and so on. Show other people respect, and you'll get respect. Honesty, transparency throughout the post and its members, and drama and gossip. I'm going to come back to that. Demonstrate a never give up attitude and show appreciation always. Okay. People do not belong to volunteer organizations to get drama. Most people have drama enough at home, or in their family, or in their community, or at their job. If you see drama happening, 2 things you have to do. First thing is very, very important. What do you think it is? Before that,
Don't participate.
that's it. Make it your job, before you even get involved, to say you're not going to be involved. You're not going to participate, you're not going to choose sides, and so on and so forth, okay? So that's the very first thing you have to do. The next thing you need to do is get the people that are involved in the drama either together, if that's possible. In some cases, the drama is so bad you can't do that. Or individually, and say, look, we cannot have this here. It's detrimental to the organization. You need to figure out a way to deal with it, but get it out of the organization. And that conversation has to be done just exactly the way I said it. Okay? Not, oh yeah, I can see your point, and yeah. No. You don't see their point, you don't see the other person's point. It has nothing to do with you. You are not involved. All your job is to get rid of it. It's the worst thing for your organization to have any kind of drama like that. So you need to impress it upon everybody from the get-go, and then if it develops during the course of your year of leadership or years of leadership, you need to be the first one in there to diffuse it and get rid of it. It's not acceptable. There is no place for it. None whatsoever. Anybody got any comments on that? Questions? Understand why that's so important? Okay. Then we got the do-it-all commander. He's been nominated for every position. He accepts them all. He does everything. He's the only one willing to serve because everybody looks at all the stuff he does and they're like, I can't do that. He also runs the bar. His wife is the unit president. Should have been president. I should have changed that. You can't get anyone interested in helping. Well, of course not. Then this kind, we're all in this together. He knows how to conduct meetings, uses the agenda, guides his officers and committees, and trains his or her replacement. This is the number one job of every leader, is to train the replacement. Because the only person that knows if we're going to be here tomorrow is not telling you. Okay? So you should have somebody that's ready to go. God forbid the worst happens. Right? Or the best, depending on your point of view. Okay? So you need to train your replacement. That's your first. When you first come into office, the first thing you should be doing is looking to identify one or two people that can replace you and start training them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the first vice. It could be the first vice or the second vice or the assistant director or the finance officer, whatever. But get 2 people or 3 people, even if you have people that are interested, and show them what you're doing. This way, they're not thrown into it if it works out.
You train them without. You can train them without even letting them know you're training them.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you delegate,
assign them little jobs and stuff,
get them involved,
and show them how to do things and how to check up and how to inspect and so on.
Give everybody a piece.
Participating in community and civic functions. Okay, so as the leader of the organization, you are the face of your chapter. Okay? You are the face of your chapter. So if there's any kind of opportunities for press, like the newspaper or whatever, you want to be the person there to extol the virtues of your chapter, right? You also want to be the person there that if there's a need in the community, something needs to be fixed, you need to go up to that leader of whatever that veterans organization is or children's organization or whatever and say, hey, look, we're here. What can we do? These are our capabilities. Get with me and I'll help you. That's what the leader's job is in the chapter and also in the post, right? You're the leader. You're the face of the post. Knowing that, you should not be someplace in public falling down drunk, slurring your words, and cussing like a sailor, okay? Sorry, Dave. Okay? But the bottom line is, that's not what you want to be doing, right? You're the face of the organization, okay? And you also want to make sure that you're constantly reviewing what your program is charged to do as far as the American Legion's expectations, right? So you can, the mission for the American Legion Riders is posted right on the website. Keep looking at that every so often. You know, foster safe riding. Be a face of the American Legion. Raise money for children. Raise money for Project Bear. You need to know that and constantly be involved in that and make sure all the programs that the Legion expects you to do as a post, an auxiliary, a son's squadron, a chapter, all of those things that the American Legion expects of you and the community expects from you, you need to make sure those are getting done, right? Any questions on that? Okay, so here's the structure of the American Legion. Department chair, this is Jim. He supervises all the committee and the riders program for the department. Reports directly to the commander. He sets the agenda for 3 scheduled meetings, right? What are they?
Spring conference and something.
There is no spring conference. There's convention, conference, and summit, right? He monitors all areas, districts, and chapters are following the rules and procedures set forth by the department. Make sure nobody decides that they are an MC. Okay? This is a huge problem for some states. Colorado, they completely fall under the Council of Clubs.
No, we do not.
From Colorado, where at?
I'm actually from Pueblo.
Okay, you're from Pueblo? Okay, so I'm only talking about the 5th District. That's where I get all my news from. That's
Denver.
Denver, yeah.
East
Okay?
Denver,
Yeah. So I know that you guys got a thing out of Cripple Creek that the Council of Clubs was involved with, and so on and so forth. I noticed that it doesn't say Colorado anyplace on your vest. You just have a flag.
I have a flag,
The reason, you know the reason for that, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there, if it says Jacksonville on the back of your patch, Council of Clubs says you're claiming a territory. We have never allowed the MCs and never threatened the MCs to be playing in their sandbox, okay? So you want to make sure that you don't do that. And because of some of those things that happened in Colorado and some of the things that happened in Wyoming, National changed, and they haven't all gone to this yet, but they have presidents, they don't have directors. They changed that last year. The presidents are all supposed to be called directors now. They have secretaries. Those are supposed to be called adjutants. Okay? So they changed everything to make sure it didn't mimic anything that looked like an MC, but they still have a lot of influence with the MCs. That's something that you want to make sure doesn't happen, and that's one of Jim's biggest things, okay? Make sure all the functions are within the guidelines set forth by the Department of National, obviously. Monitors a good name in the American Legion. Legion family first, rider second. Instilled in every chapter, okay? How many people have people that are in your chapters that join the American Legion just to be a rider?
Oh, everybody's got it. Everybody.
Happens everywhere.
That's a big problem.
Legionnaires, Sons, LA.
That's a big problem, right? Why? There is no such national thing as the American Legion Riders. It is a program of the American Legion, okay? So you're the family first that you join, and a rider second, okay? That's by edict that comes out all the way from national department to the district to your chapter. The chapter is still a program of the American Legion. So if you're a son, your duty is to the sons first. If you're an auxiliary member, your duty is to the auxiliary. If you're a legionnaire, your duty is to the legion. And you're a rider as one of the programs of the American Legion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? I know a lot of people join that way, and that's okay. If that is what brings people into your group, that's okay. But they need to learn very quickly that they are a program of whatever family member they came into the riders under. Does that make sense? Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right. Next thing we have is the area commanders, the area chairs rather. Okay? These people are department ranks. So if something happens to Jim, one of these people can step right in for him. Okay, that's a department rank. And they have pretty much the same thing that Jim has, except the next echelon down. All right? After that, you have the district chairs. The district chairs are probably the most interactive of the hierarchy of the ones we've gone through so far, because they interact with every director in their district, or they're supposed to. Okay? They also keep the district together. They keep the district from scheduling events one on top of the other. Okay? We want to make sure we don't do that. And that's the district chair's job. And then, of course, the most important rank is the chapter director. Chief administrator and officer of the chapter presides over all meetings, is the liaison to the executive committee of the sponsoring post. All right? American Legion Riders, although it's the reason I started in the Legion, okay? I started in the American Legion Riders chapter before I even knew what the Legion was about. But I like to ride. Okay? But the American Legion Riders is a program of the post, so everything that the Riders is doing should be made aware to the post. Okay? Supervises all affairs of the chapter, coordinates with the officers, the chapter, the district, and the area department level, and submits reports as required by the sponsoring post, district, and department. So the the district commander is going to require a report at least once every quarter in some districts. In other districts, it's once every month. And what should be on the report is what the people use for the CPR report. What are those things? What do they care about? Volunteer hours, miles,
Money donated.
and then membership, how you're made up of. We have this many auxiliary, this many sons, so on and so forth, okay? All right. Create the vision for the chapter, friendliest chapter in town, whatever. Assure communications with all the officers, road captains, safety officers, problem resolution, the buck stops here. So if there's a problem and nobody else can solve it, it goes to the director, and he is or she is required to solve it, okay? Coordinate events with the district, disseminate information from the district, represent the chapter to the post, community, and district, help the chapter grow, and create fun. The meetings are for the chapter, not the director, okay? So if you have a director that all he does is talk through the whole meeting, or she does talk through the whole meeting, nobody in the chapter gets a chance to have any input, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Okay? And don't go back and tell all your directors, oh, Joe said, wait, you're doing it all wrong. Don't do that. You have to be a leader when you're talking to a leader and lead them to the proper conclusion, right? Make them think it was their idea. All right? Action of directing a group. It's a process. Doesn't happen all at once. Leaders and managers are not necessarily the same thing. A leader must be able to recognize great managers and specialize and utilize their talents and inspire their best use. And leaders manage expectations. Managers manage schedules and things. Schedules and things don't have expectations. What has expectations? People. Okay? So back to your comment. Say it again.
Leaders lead people, managers manage resources.
There you go. Okay? Identify the goal. Keep all stakeholders focused on the goal. Assure all actions are performed are related to the goal. That one I want you all to take home from here. When you're leading people, make sure whatever you're getting them to do, you're not expending that capital, human capital, on something that's not important to getting the job done, right? Leader inspires passion, necessary to overcome obstacles to reach the goal. Has the vision, also known as the ultimate gain of accomplishing the goal. What's it going to look like when the goal is accomplished? And keep the vision top of mind. Most important leadership role is the chapter director. District chairs help coordinate the chapters. Area chairs provide support to the districts, and the department chair represents the riders to the department and the commanders. Also supports the areas and districts. The difference between a successful organization and one that is not can usually be attributed to leadership. I didn't write that. That was actually 3 years ago. Tank taught this course, and that was his thing. The individual capabilities of people in the organizations are the same, whether it's a military unit, a business, volunteer organization, or anything else. And what separates good, bad, and the ugly are the attributes such as vision, culture, communications, goals, integrity, knowledge, and training, and capital, whatever. You ready for a leadership role?
Yes.
All right. You either seek out, accept, or avoid responsibilities, know who fits in the categories in your organization, and work with them accordingly. Chief Warrant Officer 4, Charles Lindemann. Any questions? Comments?
I have one comment
Shoot.
about Colorado Riders. The reason they agreed to not have anything on our vest that would show where we were from is a safety reason. Because of the 1%ers.
Right.
And this all came about from a knife and gun incident between one of the 1%er groups and a police writing association. And that's how they solved it. It was like, you know, we
But
won't
again,
bother you
If you don't bother us.
if
Right.
we don't, yeah.
Yeah. In any event, as you can see, there's some complications involved there. We need to avoid that at all costs.
Absolutely, sure.
Okay? At all costs. And I know some chapters have friends that come to their chapter meetings that are 1%ers. That's fine. No colors. If they're a member of the chapter, they wear Legion attire. If they're not a member of the chapter, they're a guest, no colors. Okay? That's fine. We just don't want to make sure that we're not glommed into the same category as the 1%ers. Most likely. Yes?
You were saying earlier about the cliques. So, I'm using my post as an example. We have riders that are been there for years, and they have friendships. So on a Friday night, you walk in my post, this group over here has pulled all the high top tables together, this group over here has pulled all the low top tables together, and we got half our rider group over here, half our rider group over there. So, we're both running for their position. How do we go to somebody that's been there for 10, 12 years or whatever?
Good
and
question.
get them to break up their groups.
Good question. Okay, so you're looking at that a little backwards.
Okay.
You don't want to break their group up.
Correct.
You're never going to be able to do that. You're going to be the outsider if you do that, okay?
You gotta use them.
What you're going to do is you're going to challenge them or ask them, say, look, you guys have been around for a long time. You know how each other operates and so on. I need your help to bring other people in that you would feel comfortable riding with, that you would feel comfortable serving with, so on and so forth, and help me identify those that are going to rise into the leadership positions. So bring more people into their group. You can't break them up. There's no way that's gonna happen. I mean, naturally, they've been around, I mean, TW and his brother and that whole group there, you're not gonna break them up.
Well, that's not.
They were there when they
That's not
started.
a particular group I'm talking about.
I know.
I think TW was our first,
He was the first guy, yeah.
Yeah, he was our first director.
Yeah.
What you're really doing is focusing the vision or the goals of the rider group.
Yeah.
You're telling them, no place and stuff like that, but you're promoting friendship, but you're promoting that goal of rider safety and.
We had two
inclusion
members
and
that just joined recently, like last month, right?
Yeah.
Well, they came in, they rode a couple rides with us, and we don't do a whole lot of rides because most of our people aren't retired, we all got jobs. So we get to ride on the weekend, we don't really do a lot during the week. Well, they went out to the beaches, and they ride Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, because they're all retired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
I
we
know that.
lost two members, and then when I asked them, I went straight to them, I was like, hey, man, y'all joined our post, but 2 weeks later, you're out at the beach, what happened? What didn't you like here, what wasn't comfortable? They're like, well, it's kinda cliquey, everybody's kinda snobby, and we went out there, they welcomed us, and they ride a lot.
Okay, so that's something that you know in the back of your mind. It's not something that you're gonna verbalize to the cliques,
Right.
okay? But what you're gonna do is you're gonna say to the people that are in those cliques, because they are your longtime members, okay? You're gonna say, look, I need your help. We have a situation where a lot of us are still working, and we don't do a lot of rides during the weekend. If we wanna get some of these other riders that can go to other posts and ride with them, we wanna keep them in our post, we need your help. We need you to make them feel welcome, we need you to get them involved as quickly as possible in some of the things that the chapter is doing, and so on and so forth. Let me tell you something. Most of the people in my chapter are not retired. And we ride with everybody. You don't have to leave your chapter to go ride with somebody else, okay? I ride with 129 all the time, because I love riding with those guys, and they always have a ride going on, okay? I'm not gonna leave my post and join theirs, my chapter and join theirs. As long as everything else is okay in your chapter, you should be able to tackle that, okay?
We had a couple of people from our folks was riding with somebody else, and we never saw them at all. And they said the same thing, that we didn't ride enough, but we just took over leadership, so we're trying to change that. But what we did was, they started inviting them and including them on the planning, and we were doing a ride after every meeting to a different place. And what we're trying to do is actually get one of them to become a road captain. They're gonna come up here and just take the course, get them included into it and see what it takes to get in and include them on the whole planning thing.
That's awesome. Does that help you? Perfect. Look, we're done, by the way. We got done at 10:45, 11:45 when we're supposed to. But I'll stick around as long as you want if you have other questions or comments. Yes, sir.